Western Stampin Barbie dolls have boots that stamp, ink pads, and glitter. Dolls and horse sold separately.
In 1993, the world of dolls, Western wear, and stationery was revolutionized, I assume, by the release of the Western Stampin Barbie doll. Not to be confused with Western Barbie, whose boots were exclusively made for walking. This doll had spurs that doubled as roller stamps. The illustrious Western Stampin Barbie was presented to me on Pinterest. I saw her boots and I was like, I want those. Why doesn't someone make those? So I am now the someone that I was hoping for, and I am looking forward to doing a mediocre job at accomplishing my goal. No one qualified stepped up to the plate, so it was left to me, a deeply unqualified person, to make my own dreams come true. This is not an exact recreation, this is, I guess you could call it like a practical recreation. So I want it to be functional, and I will expand on why I'm having to specify that in a moment. I had literally none of the pieces to recreate the full look. Now, I do respect the look. I don't super love having a ton of blue in my wardrobe, and since I was going through the effort of making these boots, I wanted to make them that sans stamps, I could actually wear them and make use of the effort. So I did not go for blue. Blue just doesn't exist a lot in my wardrobe. It doesn't really draw my eye. Neither does red, which is the color from the Tara Lynn version. So I went for purple. I wanted to do purple. I wear purple. Blue and red together are purple. So my version will be purple. Just to clarify, in case you are not already familiar with this version of Barbara, these are not stamps as in postage. I had to specify that to a few people when I described it to them. It is the craft item that you probably used at some point in elementary school. It's the thing where you have the ink pad and you put the stamp in it and then you put it onto construction paper. It's that like imprinting device. Stamps are generally for kids' crafts, hence why this is on a toy. Also, I'm wearing a Barbie shirt. You can't tell fully, but I am wearing a Barbie shirt to be on theme. Let's talk about the spurs. My biggest barrier to success was the rolling aspect. Very vital, very tricky. I remember I actually at one point got to do like a make your own stamp thing in an art class when I was in school, which was very cool, but that was not a very bendable material. You really had to like chisel out the like rubberiness. So I was not feeling I did not trust that I would be able to get it to bend to my will without just snapping in half. It did not seem like a bendable material. Even if I could bend the material, what would I affix it to for the continual rolling? I was trying to figure out if I could do like a wheelies version. I was not able to find that, at least within a reasonable budget. So I wanted to buy stamps that were already in wheel form. Thankfully that does exist. Most of the options I found were vintage, they were secondhand, which made me realize that these were probably popular in the time that this Barbie came out. Again, hence why this Barbie exists. I was then confronted with the impending doom of spur weight. These spurs that I was seeing on eBay were gonna be way too heavy to be supported on my very lackluster spur holders. They also probably would not have been the most comfortable to walk with or even really loud. So I ended up finding a kid's version of a roller stamp and I was like, this will be perfect. It's from Shopkins. It appears to be the inanimate object version of Littlest Pet Shop. I bought 2 sets totaling 4 stamp wheels, 2 stamp holders, and 2 ink pads. When they arrived, I will admit they were smaller than I expected. There might have been a measurement and I might not have looked at it, but it's fine, it worked out, everything's fine. The holders easily succumbed to the power of the box cutter and were cut down to size. Anyway, the spur strap. I went for an old belt. Plain, brown, pleather. My fabulous assistant used a box cutter to cut the belt in half. I hot glued them to the straps. Also, just to set expectations, this is not going to be impressive. It's impressive that I figured it out, but it's not gonna look, it looks impressive from afar. To take it from unreliable half belts to spurs was accomplished with some fabric tape. I used it to attach the ends together. The logic here was skin and leather are like material cousins, maybe? It was a pretty good sticking agent for the fact that I thought it was real tape and used it on accident. And I'm very pleased, honestly. I was working on this project on and off over the course of a couple of weeks, and eventually one of them came unstuck, but I actually think that's pretty good for tape that was used not for its intended purpose. Okay, the boots. I purchased brown boots on Poshmark. They had some peeling on the toes, which was fine for my purposes because I knew I wanted to paint them. I was a little concerned that that would show with the paint job. I just was super unaware and hadn't done that before, but it turned out really good. I had never painted a leathery material before, and my main concern was any cracking or peeling. Here is what the internet told me to do. Clean the entire surface with 100% acetone nail polish remover. I did this for both the boots and the spurs. Then you let it dry for at least 10 minutes. I just ended up leaving it overnight. Using actual paint for leather, start in very small sections with a light coat. I have a tendency to overdo it, and I was not going to do it this time. Leave it to dry for an hour between coats. And it worked! I am not one to follow directions perfectly, so I'm utterly surprised that the one time I did it, it worked out. I really don't think the texture looks painted, even up close, which is wild to me. Testing. I tested the stamping process by hand before trying it by foot. I realized that these old ink pads intended for children sucked, so I went ahead and bought some normal ones. My hope was to just give the stamp spurs their best chance to succeed, and so using normal ink pads with just a larger area to get ink onto the rollers was the right choice. So when I decided I wanted to go buy these ink pads, I was like, great, a chance to wear my spurs in public, give them a test ride. Perfect. But what should happen? So I was headed out the door to test out the boots in the wild, see how the spurs would fare in the real world, and I got 2 steps down the stairs and heard a little snap. And yeah, the little stampy thing came right off the spur. I got 2 steps down the stairs before I snapped my spurs. Oops. Basically, it just kind of immediately came off. So nothing was broken. It was technically, I guess, just peeled off. Still not great. It was a very easy recovery, but I felt stupid. I felt dumb. The second I put them on, I forgot my radius, like I was riding a Segway. What we've learned from this is I need to side straddle the stairs. I can do that, and I think it's funny. There's sort of somehow a pun there. Is that why ranch houses don't have stairs? Anyway, spurless. I took the boots out on the town. I still wasn't sure if they were going to peel or crack or anything. Before this point, I was super suspicious of the paint job. I was relieved with how well it turned out, and yet suspicious of how well it turned out, like it could not be that good. With this type of thing, you're kind of aiming for visual normality. Like, you don't want someone to look at it and be like, oh, did you paint those? At least I don't. Because, yes, and why did you know that? Anyway, I got the ink pad, I re-glued my stamp spurs, and suddenly it was time for the reveal! Very happy with how everything turned out. So I suppose the real question is, can you stamp with spur stamps? Now, when looking at the Western Stampin Barbie ad, it was clear that the way that Barbie stamps is not the way I was going to be able to stamp, because my legs don't do that. It was not going to scale up to me, a human person. For me, it was definitely more hopping than gliding. I was surprised that it worked at all. Obviously, my legs don't work the way Barbie legs do. It took a while for my non-Barbie legs to be able to drag the stamp across. It was also hard to predict how much pressure you were putting. You have to get a pretty 90-degree glide. It worked. Look at my beautiful art. Yeah! Yeah! Perfect. Hold it down with the boot. This is not normally how you apply ink to stamp, but you gotta get creative when you're stamping. Okay, wait. I ripped
the paper a little, but it's fine.
Ooh, but there was this half wall at the park that I was at. That was weirdly perfect.
Okay. Whoa, you're right. Oh my gosh. Pretty good. Let me get the purple. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's working. Ta-da!
But it is possible. I did make functional stamp spurs. Again, think of how cool it could be if a professional did it. I would buy them still! What would I do differently next time? I know there has to be a better way to do the strap. Maybe still using a pleather belt could be great, but I don't know, something to get that curvature so it could sit on the heel. If you could get it to sit on the heel, if nothing else, it would be more authentic to spurs, and I think that's really cool. But yeah, there's gotta be a better way to do it, both aesthetically and then also to help you in your stamping. The stamps did jiggle while I walked, and at one point one jiggled off.
I found it.
If I was able to find it, I was able to retrieve it, I would have been broken if I lost one, if I littered.
They are not the most secure, but like spurs might not be either. I don't know.
The boots were $7 plus shipping. The Shopkins stamp sets were $5 each. The ink pads were both $4. The belt was old enough to order a drink for itself, so I'm gonna count that as $0. The paint was around $7.50. So my total was 37 something. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to see me jump around in a belt filled with lemonade or see me stain my own tub with turmeric, stick around and I'll see you next time.
Woo!